Let's get started. We're a little bit past the time we were going to start our webinar. Folks will keep trickling in, but thank you all for being here. It's wonderful to have such a great crowd for this topic and to help us keep the learning going while everybody's at home. And again, my name is Danny Rubin, the founder of Ruben. We are an online curriculum for business communication skills, professional development skills. Many of you I've met over the years at conferences and events. Some of you are new. Thank you all for coming, and thank you for inviting your students. If we have students who are on, I hope that they are here. And what I'd like to do is just give you a bit of background on me, what sort of who I am and where this company and material emerged from. And then we're going to look at our online program, and we're going to draw from our online program today to look at resumes and cover letters. And just prior to that, we have a free resource we put together for anybody interested to keep students busy with their email etiquette correspondence in the coming days. So we'll talk about that. It's kind of set up sort of who we are and what we do. And then we'll do the resume cover letter workshop for students and for teachers. Okay, so briefly, my background, I am a former TV news reporter. I was a reporter for a CBS TV station in Virginia. So I was in front of the camera covering the local news and learning all kinds of communication skills. And I left that after a short time, and I worked as a national news consultant with NBC News and USA Today, helping to structure the content and how it was delivered. And for about 3 years, I was a producer / consultant for Meet the Press on NBC. Hello there, so a former WBZ, excellent. So a former TV person in the mix. So, and then I transitioned from that role into public relations. And for students who are listening, public relations is sort of a cousin of marketing and advertising. And we help customers and clients with their messaging. So my experience, I'm now 36. Since finishing college at the University of Virginia and then a master's at the University of Maryland for broadcast journalism, I've been in the communications field, learning best practices for how to communicate messages to all kinds of audiences. And I've taken those best techniques, what works out there in the real world, and then packaged it for students so that wherever they want to go next, whatever career path, we have to know how to be good writers and speakers and communicators to open doors. So what you'll see is a reflection of everything that I've gained out in the real world, packaged up for students to learn to communicate in a stronger way. So with that said, and if anybody else has not said where they are from, we have so many already say where they're from, please keep that coming. And make sure you select to all panelists and attendees so everybody can see you and see where you're dialing in from. It's great to see all the different places where people are dialing in from. And yes, we are making a recording of this webinar. We will send it out shortly, but I'm glad you're here live. It's much more fun live and more engaging. Hello from LA, Chicago, Austin, Texas, Las Vegas. This is great. Thank you again for being here. So what I'd like to do is, the first thing is I'm going to share my screen. And let me queue up the chat again so I can see all of you. And what I've just shared with you, and some of you have seen this before, some of you it's new, is this is our online platform. And it's a big menu of instructional items, and we're going to draw from that today. But I want you to see the program in full so you understand where it's coming from, this knowledge, and then we're going to focus on some lessons. The program is called Emerge with Ruben. We help students transform into young adults, confident communicators. And think of this as a big library. Some of you may have seen these books before. Maybe you have copies of any of these books from times that we've met or in past, just in passing. And these books are collections of templates, writing and speaking examples for employability skills, business promotion skills, and leadership skills. Huge libraries of how-tos for classic situations. We also have a video library showing students the wrong and right ways to conduct themselves in professional situations like networking and using the phone and job interviews, and a podcast with short clips to listen to and gain career advice. We also have digital badges and certificates students earn. And we're going to talk about an email etiquette badge that you can give your students this in the coming weeks in just a moment. And then the rest of the site, these boxes that you're looking at are modules that contain instructional content you can have students work on in a distance learning capacity. We cover email etiquette, learning to compose emails, and we're going to talk about that unit in just a moment because we're going to let you have this unit with your students. Learning life skills, not shaking hands right now, but maybe one day we'll be able to shake hands again, and learning how to hold meaningful conversations and be a young adult. And phone etiquette, learning how to use the phone appropriately. We also have units on employability skills, networking, resumes, cover letters, and that's where we're going to focus our time today. Learning to write emails for internships and jobs, learning to write LinkedIn profiles, learning to prep well for job interviews. We also have activities for entrepreneurship, learning to develop business concepts, writing skills for sales, writing website pages, public relations 101 primer, and writing for fundraising. And finally, writing and speaking as a leader. Writing skills for managers, writing to clients, project management related correspondence, public speaking exercises, writing reports, and exercises for student leaders. So I don't want to take too much time, but I want you to understand that our program in full is a large library of over 100 exercises students can do from anywhere where they practice their communication skills. Now, with that being said, I want to focus our attention for one moment on this box right here, email etiquette beginner. Can I just have a quick look in the chat? And I'm sorry for the students who may be watching, but for teachers, can you give me a little hand raise or a yes if email etiquette often frustrates you? As you know, when you're reviewing, I see a lot of hands being raised. I see it's a constant frustration at any level, you know, middle school, high school, higher education, adult education. It's just a constant struggle. So what we've put together is a unit where students learn how to write a proper email. And this is what we'd like to offer you right now, or after this webinar. So let me share the screen, put together a very short PowerPoint. If you can all see this, this is our unit on email etiquette. Take a look at what is listed here. I'll give you a second to read. So what we're doing here is teaching students the absolute basics of email construction. And you'll see parts 1, 2, 3, and 4, constructing an email, understanding the difference between a text message and an email. And the final activity is to send an email to the instructor to demonstrate students know how to write a proper email. It is 6 to 8 hours of instructional time. Hopefully you could use it to fill a week or a part of a week. And at the end of the unit, students can earn an advanced email etiquette digital badge, which they can put on their resume or a portfolio or a LinkedIn profile to show employers that they have the office skills, the professional skills that are so needed today in the workplace. So, and to give you one example of how schools have used this, we work with a lot of CTE programs. I know some of you are within CTE around the country, middle schools, high schools, university level, and adult education. And this is a high school example. Students went through this email etiquette unit, learned email construction at Stockdale High School in Bakersfield, California. So all the California folks talking to you. And they sent emails to executives at Major League Baseball and the NBA. The students are part of a student business through Virtual Enterprises International through the high school, selling hemp products. And they sent emails to these executives saying, we want to do a promotional night of our products during a major league game. And it was a mock scenario, but the executives did write back and did send over a mock proposal. So the students learned how to get business started and have conversations through email by going through the unit. So if you are interested in this unit at no cost, there's no strings. What I want you to do is type interested in the chat. and please provide your email address as well. Then we will be in touch and provide it. What we'd like to do is have a quick phone call over the coming days just to say hello in person and provide this lesson, help you make sense of it within your current flow with your instruction. So just interested in your email, so we make sure we match your name and your email, we get it to the right people. I'll give you a second to do this. Really want you to think of Ruben as a company that helps students with their email communication. If nothing else today, we are the email writing curriculum program. It's such a problem at every level. And we want to help fill that void. And I want to help your students while everybody's at home, because it's an easy lesson that they can do from home. Thank you, everybody, sending in your interested with your email. And if we see a lot of the same school, we'll try to group everybody together for a short call as a group and not do it individually. But thank you for writing in. We just want to keep putting good resources out there and just helping the cause. So thank you for that. And you can continue to put your name if you're interested, and we'll talk about it again once more at the very end. Okay. So with that being said, let's get into and do we have any students on? Can any students go to the chat and say hello? I'd like to see if we do have some students here. Hello. Okay, great. We do have some students, because I'm going to be talking to the students, and I may need a couple volunteers as we go. So, okay, great. Lots of students. Excellent. Okay. All right. So let's go back to the Emerge platform, and we're going to focus, as promised, on resumes and cover letters. Okay. So let's first talk about resumes. What makes what we're calling a resume unforgettable? Okay. And the first question many students have, I'm sure many students have asked the teachers here, is what do I put on my resume because I don't have a lot of work experience yet? Maybe I've only had one job or no jobs. What can I put on my resume? Let me first just show everybody where we are working out of this unit. I'll give the teachers a chance to just scan, and we're going to focus on a couple of items. Okay. See, in our program, we really take our time. We go section by section, and we speak to the student experience. So we're going to focus on these two items right here. What if we don't have work experience, and a sample resume for a student? So let's go over to this reading called What If You Don't Have Work Experience Yet? And to do that, let me move my little chat for a second. We have an accessibility tool that darkens the screen and lets us focus. So let's focus in. Now let's say you can share opportunities like mowing lawns and babysitting. You might say, well, those aren't real jobs. I can't share those jobs. Yes, you can. You can share those jobs, but the challenge is to make them look as professional as any other job that you might consider, quote unquote, a real job. These are real jobs. They involve responsibility in helping other people, taking care of other people at times. So let's look at an example of babysitting, okay? Let's say summer of 2018, you were babysitting. Now, how can we make babysitting look as professional as possible? Let me show everybody these 3 bullets. Provided babysitting and childcare services for 2 families during summer 2018. Supervised 5 children ages 11, 7, 5, 4, and 2 from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. 4 days a week. Received interest from 3 other families for babysitting services thanks to positive referrals. Now let me ask the students in our chat together. Can a student tell me what stands out to you in these bullet points? What jumps out? Are there some details that hit you right away? Can someone tell me what they notice? Quantitative detail. That's right. Excellent answer. What we're doing is we are adding numbers to our experience at all times. Everything that we do has numbers, and this is what journalists do. And I'm showing you how we're applying what journalists do out in the world to report the news, and we are translating that to a resume in this case. We are saying we provided babysitting for how many families? 2 families. We supervised children. How many children? 5. And how old were those children? And when did we do the babysitting? And how many days a week? What times of day? So even if all we've done, quote unquote, all we've done is babysitting, we can make babysitting look as professional as any other job on a resume by leaning on the details from our unique experience. Okay, so what I'd like to do, and we're going to look at a full resume for a student in just a moment, but what I'd like to do is a little bit of a Q&A with a student. I'd like to find a willing volunteer. Can some student in our chat, can you tell me a part-time job that you have had or have right now? The first one that shows up, we want to do a little bit of a back and forth. Can someone write a job that they've had? We're going to do a demonstration. Safeway. Okay. So let's focus on Stanley. You're our willing volunteer. Okay, Stanley? Stanley, what did you do at Safeway? Were you bagging groceries? What did you do at Safeway? Or what do you do? Restocking shelves. Okay, so let's think about the numbers that are in Stanley's world. Okay, Stanley, how many items do you stock on the shelves in an average workday? So give me an estimate of how many products you are stocking on the shelves. Can you think of just a ballpark number? If not, I'll make one up for the demonstration here. But I really want to focus on the students and helping them learn. Okay, let's say in an average day, Stanley stocks 500 items on the shelves. And let's say he works 4 days a week. So in an average week, he's stocking 2,000 items on the shelves. And let's say he works 15, well, I don't want to start doing crazy math on myself, but let's just keep it there. Let's say in an average week, Stanley stocks the shelves with 2,000 items. Now, doesn't that sound more impressive than saying I stock shelves at Safeway? When we say I stock on an average week 2,000 items at Safeway? It's much more impressive when we lean on the numbers that we own, that we possess. And so the first thing I want you to think about with your own resume, whether you're a student or you're a working professional, is what numbers do I possess? What questions can I ask myself? How much? How often? How many? Find the data that you own. Lots of people can say they have a similar job title or they do a similar role, but nobody else has your unique circumstances, and that's what's going to make you different. And I promise, when you hand your resume to an employer, the first thing they're going to notice are your numbers. They're going to go right past the words, and they're going to know the numbers. Question from Sierra, what if you don't know your numbers? We have to think hard about what we possess. We all have numbers. We have them in our world. We just have to think more critically about what we've done, looking inside the work. If we're raising money, or if we're working with people, if we're stocking shelves, there's data all around us, okay? So I want to start us there, because quantifying and adding detail to our work experience is the centerpiece of a great resume. Now, the next thing I want us to focus on is a sample resume for a student. And while I'm thinking of it, just to show you what's in this program, we have a language tool for any teachers who teach students from different countries, Spanish speaking or otherwise. We have a function where if the student highlights the word and presses listen, in addition to that, if they highlight words, they can hit translate and have the words translated into any of these languages. In this case, Chinese. That wasn't a good example because that's the only way to say it, but it will translate the words into other languages. I want you to just know that. So let's focus on a sample resume for a student. And you can take these techniques and apply them to your life no matter where you are in your career, okay? So it's not just limited to students, but I do want to speak to students in this webinar, okay? So you can show it to students after today as well. So let's go back to our shadow function. I want to first talk briefly about objective statements. I believe they are optional for students, okay? You don't necessarily need an objective statement or a professional summary. you're not far enough along yet in a career to kind of know who you are. If you're going to use one, this is our recommendation, is to speak to sort of where you hope to go in your career. Okay, so we can say junior at Acme High School or junior at Acme University, interested in culinary arts and hopes to one day be a chef at a 5-star restaurant. It's great to be aspirational in this section. We don't have a career path yet. We don't have a lot of experience. So let's just say who we are today and where we hope to go, okay? Again, that's optional. The best place to start a resume for anybody, sorry, let me go back to that, not just students, is our skills section. And here's where we're gonna lean hard on details again, okay? Let me just get to the bullets. And again, I want students to respond. I want students to respond to what they're seeing here. Here are 4 examples of skills. Bilingual Spanish, created mock restaurant website on a WordPress platform, practice sending promotional emails to restaurant customers through e-newsletter tool MailChimp, take customer orders through point of sale system Square. So can the students tell me what they notice from these bullets? What stands out to you? What stands out to you in each of these bullets? And it's similar to the work experience we just looked at. What do you notice? What's different here? Are there some specifics again? Right. Can someone write an example of a specific that they notice? What is a specific word that they notice? I just want to see one. Bilingual, MailChimp, exactly. We don't want to use this section to use a lot of adjectives and qualities like leadership skills or time management skills or hardworking skills, because those are not the words that companies are looking for when they're using software to search through people or just the human eye. We need to know, what skills do you possess? You can certainly learn new skills on the job. That happens every day. But the employer wants to know, what do you know right now? What is your value today? What skills do you have? So we want to make sure our skill section is full of these kinds of examples. So again, ask yourself, what languages do I speak? What certifications have I gained through school? What software do I know how to use? What, just all kinds of things that are sort of specific and relevant to your own life and your own qualifications. Again, Meg asked, should we exclude soft skills? My advice to you right here, soft skills in this section do not hold a lot of weight. We're going to talk about how soft skills come into play through a storytelling cover letter. And we'll get there in just a few minutes, okay? We really don't want to use soft skills in this section because I promise you, the employer sees the same adjectives over and over and over again. It doesn't pique their interest. This is the stuff that says, oh, they know how to use WordPress. We use WordPress. And when Melanie asked, what are soft skills? Soft skills are the qualities of a person, their hard work, their work ethic, their determination, their diligence, their sense of professionalism, and those kinds of skills that are sort of, you know, how you feel about a person. We're going to talk about where you use those in just a few moments, okay? Now let's go back. We'll go to our experience, and we've already talked about this. And again, time management, problem solving, we're going to give you a great strategy for students or for working professionals, how to incorporate that you have these soft skills, but in a much more memorable way. So in our experience section, again, we see what we already talked about. We are going to show the numbers. Let's say you're a hostess at a restaurant. We work as a hostess at a popular Mexican restaurant in Columbus. It sees more than 300 customers a day. How many customers come in each day? Make sure all 14 servers receive equal customers in their table sections. How many servers? Let's give the reader a sense of the scope and how important your job is. Okay, coordinate a coat check, and on an average night, organize 250 coats. Okay, so think about all the numbers in your world. We really don't think hard about this till we sort of press ourselves. And a great activity for teachers when students are back in school, or even virtually, is to have them do a Q&A with each other and have them determine the numbers that they each possess, and then incorporate those numbers into their work experience. Okay, we talked about babysitting. It's the same thing you already saw. And one other example, working for a nonprofit like volunteering. And we have more examples of sort of how to quantify. I'll give you a second to read. Now, Let's go down to a couple more sections as we get to the bottom. Any affiliations or sort of roles that you have in school or outside of school. Maybe you're the treasurer of the culinary club in this case, or at college, vice president of the university cooking club, right? This person is interested in culinary arts. We've already established that. And then hobbies. Once again, maybe you want to include hobbies. I think that's an okay approach because it shows your personality. If you're going to do that, again, let's be as specific as possible. So we say cook Spanish cuisine, especially paella, read mystery novels. That is so much better than saying hobbies, Spanish food, and reading. Do we see the difference? We're always going to take it one level further, one level deeper, because it becomes more interesting to the reader. Remember, we're trying to make somebody enjoy our job application. The details, there are details in your life that can show up all over the page. And lastly, and this is going to be a little bit unconventional to traditional resumes, but I believe, that education comes at the bottom, not at the top. Okay? Whether you're in high school, college, adult education, a two-year program, wherever you are. Why do we say education at the bottom? Because everybody is going to school or gaining some kind of education somewhere. And the most interesting thing you can say right off the bat are your skills. Because this is what makes you different. Going to school somewhere does not inherently make you different. Your skills make you different. Your experience makes you different. The numbers you have make you different. This just needs to be here so people say, where are they in school or where did they graduate from? Okay, we could probably argue this all day long, but we want to capture the person's attention. People are going to give you 6 to 10 seconds with your resume. We got to start with the best stuff and then hold their attention all the way through. Okay, so I want to make sure we hop over to cover letters and cover that too in the time we have. And if you have some resume questions, we'll try to get to them at the end with a brief Q&A. Okay, so let's hop over. We talked about, and this is going very quickly here, I understand, but we have limited time, and I want to make this relevant and get to everything we talked about we would do. So let's talk about cover letters. And I know some of you in here have used this approach with your students. If you have, feel free to chime in because it's a new idea. It comes right out of journalism, and it's an innovative approach to stand out in a cover letter, okay? What we're encouraging students to do, and really anybody, okay, is to not write the cover letter by summarizing. Do not summarize your resume in a cover letter by basically writing paragraphs of your resume bullet points. That's a waste of space and it's unnecessary, and the employer doesn't want to read that. What they want to know, they want to see an example of a time where you demonstrated your work ethic, a time where you faced a challenge. It could have been a minor challenge through a class project, a part-time job, a volunteer opportunity, any moment where you said, this was tough, I could have quit, I could have walked away, but I figured out how to solve the problem and I got to the other side. That is how we demonstrate soft skills in our job application. But we're not actually going to use any typical soft skill words. And I'll show you what that means. So here is an example of a cover letter where a student demonstrates how they solve problems. All right, here's the opening line. I looked up at the sky and couldn't believe it. Storm clouds. Now, again, this is not a cover letter you have seen before. What does a typical cover letter start with? Hi, my name is so-and-so. I think I'd be the perfect fit for the blank position. And let me tell you all the things I've done, summarizing my work experience in the next 2 paragraphs, right? Now we are hooking the reader with a problem, with a conflict. Again, we have to hold their attention right away. Make them say, hold on a second, what am I reading right now? This is not a typical cover letter. I'm intrigued. All right, so we've established there's a problem. There's storm clouds on the horizon. Part 2, for months, my team and I had prepared for the annual Big Nonprofit Association Charity Bash, in which students throw a party for 24 hours straight and raise money for children's hospitals. We had the campus quad reserved and the event ready to go. Then out of nowhere, a huge thunderstorm threatened to ruin everything. As team leader, I organized our group to take the dance party inside the gymnasium, notified all participants about the location change, and worked with an audio-visual tech to ensure the music played indoors. Within 3 hours, we had the big nonprofit association party back on track, and in the end, collected $11,000 for charity, the most we had ever raised. Now, that is the first part of our cover letter. Now, let me ask you this. What are some of the qualities, the soft skills that we identified of this person in the story? Can someone rattle off, like, what are some of the adjectives they demonstrate in this story? What sort of words come to mind? Who is this person? Adaptability, organized, problem solver, resourceful, teamwork. We can use 100 different positive words in this for this person, but let me ask you, are those words anywhere in this story? They are not, because anybody can say that they are hardworking and dependable and, you know, demonstrate teamwork and all those things, but they don't matter to the employer if they don't have an example to put it next to. So instead of telling somebody that you're really great, we need to give them a clear example of why we're really great. And I want to ask the students too, one more thing. Do we notice some specifics? Do you see some numbers in this section right here? Does one number in particular jump out to you? Can someone tell me the big number that they see? $11,000. So we didn't say, at the end of the day, we had a great success, we raised a lot of money. No, we say exactly how much money, because that's our number. That's a number that you, as a job seeker or as a student, that's a number you own. Nobody could ever claim that same number the same way you could. So that's why it's critical to use our numbers and our stories. And let me say one more thing about it. The very last, or in part 3, the next section, guess what? Now we see the person's name. And this is when we say the job we want. But notice how we did not say the name or the job up here, because you know what? Nothing else matters but the kind of person you are. And don't let somebody judge you based on your name or your background or where you're from. Let them judge you on how hard you work. That's how we should all be judged. They can know our name, but let them first know how we operate in tough times. Okay? Because that's what matters most. And in that way, you can equal the playing field no matter where you come from in your life. Whatever advantages or disadvantages you may have or your students may have, if they lead with a great story about how they get stuff done, that's what the employer needs to know. And they're going to say, let's call this person before someone else does, because I read 100 cover letters today and the only one I remember is this one. Now, briefly, we're not going to, there's a second half of the cover letter. I do want to just make one more mention, and then I want to show an example and do a Q&A. Okay, so one more thing I want to share. Such a big thought and concept for students. Please listen closely. The second half of the cover letter is where we show we've done our homework on the company. It is not enough to say your company is amazing and I want to work there. Because again, anybody could write that line and it means nothing because there's nothing to prove you actually know what the company does. So in this line, here we go. As I researched your organization, I learned a great deal about the inspiring work you do with Little Nonprofit Association and its annual fundraising walk that supports cancer research. I read your blog post about how the walk raised $400,000. Let me stop there. The only way I would ever know the company did a cancer walk and raised that much money is by what? By actually visiting their website. I can't just say, your company's amazing, please hire me. I have to couple a great personal story with honest to goodness research. And when you do those two things, you take your job application to a completely different level. No matter how competitive the field is, no matter how experienced other applicants are, if you can talk about yourself in clear terms and talk about the company in an authentic way, the company will want to talk to you. Okay, so I wanted to touch on that briefly. Now let me show you two quick examples here from the classroom of how students have used this approach to land opportunities for jobs and for college. The first one comes from Georgia. If any Georgia folks are here, CTE, Career and Tech Ed, work-based learning in Georgia, okay? This young woman wanted a promotion at the amusement park called Wild Adventures in her city. And it was a competitive promotion. She used a story of how she helped customers navigate a difficult experience at the park, and the hiring manager picked her for that promotion, okay? On the college side, this young man wanted to go to an elite Colorado engineering school. It was called Colorado School of Mines, one of the top engineering schools in the country. Told a story of how he helped revitalize his student government senior year. It was wrapped up in his application, helped him to become accepted to an elite engineering school. So by telling stories, you jump out of the stack. And what we really want students to do is not to be lumped in with everyone else. We want them to stand apart because everyone works hard. And we just don't often know when it's appropriate to share what we've done. And I'm here to tell you that the sooner you tell your story, the faster that door is going to open, okay? Because everybody can say they're great and everybody can say they're a leader, but we all have stories, and it starts at the beginning, sharing what makes us different, and then people will want to talk to us, okay? With that said, for the folks who may have joined a little bit late, I want to reiterate the free offer that I mentioned at the beginning, and then I want to open up to some Q&A. We have a lot of questions. Thank you, Sierra. I've never seen a resume before, even seen a resume before this. Well, that's great. You're starting from a great spot. Let's start from this version today, and you'll be ahead of the curve. So as I said to the folks who joined initially, if you are interested, we have a complete 6 to 8 hour lesson plan teaching students how to write professional emails. Such an important skill to learn at any age, no matter where you're going in your life. So if you're interested in this lesson plan, please, in the Zoom chat, if you haven't done it yet and you're still interested, type the word interested and provide your email address. We will be in touch for a brief conversation to understand how this content fits into your world, and also just to have a personal connection. It's so hard to do this when we're all separated. I much prefer to be in a room with all of you. And we will reach out, provide the lesson plan, and just talk about, how this can help your program right now in the immediacy of what we're all dealing with, okay? So feel free to write interested in your name. That's great. I appreciate you doing that. Okay, so with that said, let me hop out of the share. And I would love to use our remaining time. Remarkably, we kept this on time. And we have time for questions from students or teachers about resumes, cover letters, even beyond that, professional development topics, emailing, networking. Let's spend a few minutes talking together, and then we can go back to being in our houses.
Hey, Danny.
Maybe you want to stay all day, but we'll cut it soon. Yes.
Danny, a couple of questions came up, and as people are typing in things right now, I just wanted to share what a couple of those questions were, so maybe you can address those.
Please.
The first question, there was a couple questions regarding listing your address in a resume, and some people said it could be an invasion of privacy, and that some of the recent literature has shown to just potentially list city and state only and not include the actual address. So I was just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
That's a good question. Traditionally, you put your address. If there's a sensitivity around that, or if a school prefers students not do that, then of course you don't need to. But it is helpful. The company may need to send correspondence in the mail. That's not as common today, but it just eliminates that question of saying, can you please send us your address? Especially if they have to send any physical documents, forms to sign, onboarding information. It just gets them one step closer. But if there's any doubt, as they say in a good writing and good editing, when in doubt, leave it out.
Awesome. There's one other question about the storytelling cover letter. A lot of people really like the unique and refreshing idea of the storytelling. There was a question that came up, however, about there are potential employers that are using scanning software
Yes.
ahead of time that are looking for keywords, and
Yes.
they were asking if you felt like the storytelling cover letter may put students at a disadvantage if they're not using those keywords. So what are your thoughts on that?
No, because the keywords are contained in the resume, specifically in that skill section. Because we are encouraging students in the resume, that's where the keywords shine through. They may come into play in the story, but if you're you need to say it in your resume. Number one, in your skill section, what do you think are the key terms that the company is looking for? What skills do they hope you possess? They must be in the resume. And the cover letter provides personality and flavor and life to your resume. And it may incorporate some of those key terms too, but the key terms come in the resume. You can't go wrong filling up your resume with key terms. And I saw another question about athletes. If a student is an athlete, what are their numbers? Okay, again, there are numbers all over the place with athletes. Let's think about all the time that they're spending training. And we want to prove to the employer, this student works really hard. They put in a lot of time to perfect what they enjoy and what they're good at. So, how many hours a week are you training? How many hours does that become in a month, in a year? How much time are you spending, or are there certain gains you've made? If you had to gain weight for wrestling, did you do it? And think of all the numbers that are around your world. I'm just off the top of my head, but everybody has numbers. We own them. No one else owns them but us. So the sooner we start talking through our numbers, the faster that door is going to swing open. And to Elizabeth's question, volunteering, absolutely. Volunteering can absolutely be in work experience. It should be in work experience if that's what you have to share. We really encourage students to keep the resume to one page. If at a young age you have multiple jobs and you ran out of room, someone's got to go. But at this age, when you're not out there in the workplace yet, absolutely lean on your volunteer experience. It shows your character, it shows who you are, what you're passionate about. 100% fair game. I'd love to see it if I was looking at the resume. Any other questions that Christine had? I see some more coming through. To Maria's question, internship is absolutely work experience. We need the employer or the college admissions team or the scholarship committee just to understand that when this student is faced with challenges, they shine. And your students and what they're going through, especially right now. Let me tell you something. The stories that students are going to be able to write coming out of this challenging experience we're all in right now, they can write their ticket, because everybody is being pressed and put under stress in ways that we've never experienced in any of our lives. And what students are having to do to keep learning and keep up with their assignments and whatever's going on in their lives without internet, poor internet, who knows what. That is what we really want them to share, is how they dug out of these tough experiences. I do want to mention the free resource, the email etiquette resource. It's going to be given to you in a Google Drive folder. It's PDFs. You do not need to log into our site or deal with a website. It's just stuff you can take, add to Google Classroom, add to Canvas, add to Schoology. Our program does actually embed with Schoology and Blackboard, Desire to Learn, all the common LMS. But what we're giving you here is just resources in PDF form you can just take and use. No steps, no logging in, no funny business. Just take it and run. But I would love to see the kind of cover letter students are going to write after what they're going through right now. Any other questions? Sorry, I kept kind of rambling there. We have a few more minutes.
Danny,
Happy to keep answering questions.
Yeah, there were a couple questions regarding the resume. So one of them was regarding hobbies. Is that something that you would still include on a professional resume?
Yes, I would, and especially from a student's perspective. There's no shame or harm in sharing sort of who they are in their personality. You have to gauge it as you get older and you're applying for senior positions. You can also judge it based on the personality of the company and even the personality of the job application. They might have a more lighthearted approach, and it seems okay to share kind of who you are outside of work. But I think for students, it's certainly okay. It helps them fill out the page, and it lets the employer see sort of who they are and sort of all the different dimensions of who they are. But again, we want to use those specifics. Don't just say, I like to read or run. You like to run distance running or short distance running, or, think about being more detail oriented with anything you share with people.
Great. That I think that will help a lot of people. When we were discussing the education piece as well on the resume and where it was. And I think you have a sort of unique take on it, or some of the folks are used to putting education at the top. So when it comes to putting the education section at the bottom, would you say that potentially for students, that education could still remain at the top, or someone that has less work experience potentially putting it at the top, or even somebody that's looking for a job in education, putting their education experience at the top? So if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, good question. I as much as possible, really want students to lead with the skills that they have and the experience that they possess. Because as we talked about, we can make anything look professional and stand out if we apply proper detail. So I can't imagine a situation where it's more important to tell someone I go to school or went to school than it is to say, here's what I've accomplished in my life. So I stand by this approach because, again, we have to catch the employer or the reviewer off guard. They're going to expect to see that the education is going to come first, because that's what everybody does. So we want to change their perspective, capture their attention faster, and look differently on paper than everybody else. So that's why we hold to this approach. Be different. Don't look like everyone else's application.
Awesome.
Yes. And I do think it's okay to include GPA if it's, as I see people responding, as if it's over a 3.0. Under that, you're not helping yourself. You're probably hurting yourself. And there comes a point where we go from student to young adult where we start to remove some of the school stuff. And it might take a couple of years to build up more of a portfolio. And then we start, knocking out some of our high school things, some of our college things. But while we're in school or just out of school, yes, it's fair to share what we achieved while we were in school, because people, this is sort of all we are right now. Nobody expects more of that than what you've done today. But we have to just share it in a descriptive, engaging way, so we don't look like every other high school or college student that's submitting for this job, or even like someone who may be 5 or 10 years older, but your application would still be better because you shared a story. Yes, I mean, if you want to list honors and AP classes, again, you can do that. Nothing wrong with that. But again, remember that a lot of students are going to share the similar things. So what's going to make you different? It's your experiences, it's your stories, it's your numbers. So don't rely too heavily on things that you would figure a lot of other people are going to say too. We want to run away from looking like the giant pack, because I'm sure if there are people on here who are employers who have reviewed resumes before, I'm sure they'll say it starts to look like the same piece of paper over and over again. And what I'm trying to encourage all of you is to be instantly different by leaning on who we are. Brian says, can resumes be over 1 page in length? With rare exception, no. When you're young and you're growing in your education or your career, you must force yourself to bring it to 1 page. Keep the bullet points under a job to a minimum. You can make the font a little smaller, whatever you have to do, but do not put the employer to a 2nd or 3rd page. They don't like doing it. They're not going to read it. Keep it on 1 page. They'll appreciate that you respected their time. I know we're a little bit over. We can do a few more minutes if people have questions. And then, we can disband.
There was a question about the difference between affiliations and education. Should those be separate?
Well, by affiliation, I mean like associations or groups that you're a part of or you have leadership roles within, versus education, which is where you attended school or attend school. So in my view, they're separate things. You attend a school, but within that school, you have these leadership roles, and give them their own time and space on the page. If you want to combine it, okay, but they're different. Learning at a school is different than leading at a school. And we want to make sure there's individual attention given to what you do, outside of class time. That's really important. And there may be some great stories to share from your leadership opportunities. That's how we go from the resume with like our facts, to our cover letter with a story about those facts. And the 2 pieces of paper complement each other. They don't duplicate each other. And that's what I really want to stress today, is that they have different objectives, these 2 pieces of paper, the resume and the cover letter, or online entry, whatever it is. Okay, so
There were some good, there was a good debate about if experience on your resume, work experience, does that mean that the individual has to have been paid, or could it, okay.
no, as we talked about, experience, you could use the word experience, not even work experience, and you can do full-time jobs, part-time jobs, you can do volunteer opportunities, community service opportunities, babysitting, mowing lawns, as we talked about. It can be whatever you've done. As long as you learn how to apply details to your experience, anything will look good. It just has to be described in the proper way. So don't shy away from what you've done if it doesn't feel like quote unquote work, because it's all work, whether you were paid or not, whether it was salaried or full-time, or it doesn't matter. What matters is how you acted in that particular role. Yeah, I mean, even household chores. Even if students are young enough and they're learning how to put together a resume just for the experience, whatever you've done that shows you work hard, that's what counts, and that's what people want to hire. They'll teach you what you need to know in the job. They want to hire high quality people, and your students are those kinds of people. We just have to make sure it comes through on the page. Again, lastly, if there are any other remaining teachers who would like the free email etiquette lesson plan, just type interested in the chat with your email address. We'll get it out to you. I appreciate everyone's time today, and I hope that we all found this useful, and hopefully we'll find more creative ways to keep the learning going in these many weeks that we may be indoors. So keep an eye on your email, and we'll continue to share resources and be a resource for everyone. Thank you, everybody. I'll let a few last chats scroll through, and then we'll end the meeting, and we will send this recording out as soon as possible.
Danny, I think perhaps the biggest question I saw was, do you have any more ties? Because a couple individuals liked your tie.
Yes, and let me just thank you for asking that question. I'm obviously at home right now. I'm not in an office. Why did I wear a tie? I didn't have to, because when there are big moments and big opportunities and a lot of people looking, you dress up. And I wanted students to see that I dressed up just like they should for any big significant opportunity. It does not matter whether you're at home or not, because you never know who's looking and you want to look your best. So I did this on purpose to demonstrate that dress the part for the job you want, and dress better than even you think you might have to, because you never know who's looking. So I'll be happy to share some ties with other folks on the next chat. I'll bring some more to the screen. Okay. Thank you again, everybody, so much. Good luck the rest of the day and tomorrow, and we'll be in touch real soon.